Welcome back to Tao of Twang. I'm Dave. So, no intro improvisation today, no backing track, right? We're just going to talk our way through this one and use examples as we go. And a couple of days ago, there was a comment on the YouTube channel, a question in the comments. And somebody was watching one of the videos that I don't remember. I think it was, a video, a lesson that had been around for a while. But they were asking a question about it. And the question was, um, something like, how could I use the Mixolydian pentatonic on something like this, or something to that effect? And at first, I was like, how conversational we use our language and sentences and things and text and comments, whatever. I thought, let me read that, and I was like, no, that sounds like a term, but Mixolydian pentatonic. And it might seem crazy or naive to some of you that I wouldn't know what that is. The uh, so I go up to the YouTube search box, Mixolydian pentatonic. Boom! Obviously, this is a thing, and time to get on board, right? Get with it, man. you know, so uh, I didn't watch any of the videos, but I was like, okay. And by that time, I was already formulating my own sort of intuitive version of this. It's going to be like a blues scale. We're going to move the, like a minor pentatonic. We're just going to put a major third in there and mix a little. I just start blending the two things in my head, right? And so then I Google it, just see a couple diagrams and uh, uh, you know realize even further that how much of a thing this is, right? And so, and sure enough, it was basically what I suspected. It was like, let's say we took the blues scale. Let's talk um, a pentatonic, or say like a dominant chord or a mixolydian. That would be our mixolydian scale. And then the blues scale would be the minor pentatonic, right? And so many of us just kind of, you know, this is a topic that everybody's dealing with all the time. The constant questions about, when do I switch? How do I mingle the major and the minor? And do I do that on certain chords? What do I do with all that? And, a lot of us, probably just in different lessons and at different times, depending on the situation, aren't dismissive of those questions, but are just kind of like, the easiest thing to do is just, play that minor pentatonic, but play a major third right there on that lick or something, right? We just try to kind of, don't, don't get too caught up in it and just keep it simple, right? Um, and sometimes, I'm a little skeptical about, the super scales and all this stuff and kind of labeling these things different things. But this is like something that I think it's really cool that it has such a well defined term. And it really does make sense. So, what you end up with, if we're talking scale tones, you end up with the root major third. I'm talking about tones that are coming out of that Mixolydian scale. Okay, so we got a root, major third, the fourth note in the scale. And when we're talking chord tones or extensions, we call that the 11. Then the 5, flat 7, and the root. Now, so is this a distinction without a difference? Like a lot of this kind of labeling things, weird stuff? No. I mean, this is something that really has practical application. And now that have I've caught up with everybody and have a proper name for it, I'll be using it. Um, then and of course the sound sounded right away like, okay, yeah, and I started to just kind of warm up, in my own way. That's kind of part of my system, right? I use that sound a lot, the major third, even if I'm mixing it in. Sometimes I'm mixing it in with the blues scale. Sometimes I'm just kind of purely playing more major. Then I remembered and was a YouTube thing years ago. One of the early. Um, um, I didn't spend that much time on YouTube back then, but some of those early channels, but before there were so many of us doing guitar stuff on there, um, where it's like 40 rock licks or something, and I'm sure you would recognize this channel if I could think of the name of it. And this was lick number 19 or something. They're kind of in random order. You don't start on one, you just pick some, whatever's in the in the queue right there. And it was this, and I tabbed this for you. This is where it started for me. So I was like, "Yeah, okay, that's like a kind of a blues scale lick, but it features the major third, and it sounds progressive. It sounds like an Eric Johnson blues lick or something, right? And when you put that into a 12 bar or something, it really stands out. It really makes that a big deal out of that major third, especially if you end on it like that. So it's now I don't remember the exact everything that was going on with this one, lick number 19 or whatever. And I've done a lot with it since then. But I've kind of put it into my own, I've moved it around. Right, and I've mixed it into my other stuff like we all do with all of our material, right? We integrate it into our own system. So the little bit of tab that I've got for you today is just some different. Let me look at it real quick because I don't have it up here. When I make the video, then I drop the tab in just to see which ones I tabbed out for you. And it looks like I just did a couple of different positions, right? So let's say those were both A. Those were both the same notes. All right. Now the mixture thing here, if it's not kind of self-evident, is that it's like the blues has got the flat seven, but it's also got the major third, right? So it's more Mixolydian. I would have just called this Mixolydian, right? But I get that, a nice way to go about conceptualizing it is just, taking your minor pentatonic and moving the minor third to a major one. And maybe that'll really help you kind of, sometimes you're just kind of rearranging the furniture, with this stuff, but it makes a difference, right? It's made it, this is that lick number 19. We'll just call it that, I guess, from now on. It became something that I would feature very deliberately at certain times if I wanted to get a little bit more, if I souped up my sound, I wouldn't do it in like a country blues. But if I was, wanted to, a little bit jammier, situation, and I had some nice tone and delay and stuff, you want that. You get a little, you want to, you want to have some fun, pretending you're like a little bit of Joe Satriani or something, right? And it works for that. So the three things that I tabbed here were the main one. And I put the pull-offs and stuff in there. And that's one thing that's really nice about this is the slides and the pull-offs that go into it. It sounds cool. And then I did the same notes down here. It ends on the third. I'm not going to talk about every fret and everything. You can see that and see the tab. And you can do your own thing with this. That's what I did. This stuff was not featured on any of the original thing that I saw, right? And I was already doing a lot of crossroads type, I was already using that, but The thing that's different is I would uh, 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 almost always come from under. I would come from that minor third to the or enclose it like this, right? And still do that most of the time. And those of you that work with me individually, you know that, and you're probably pretty tired of hearing about it, right? But that's really important to in my style. So it's different when I go when I don't use that as the hammering up to that minor third. See how that has a different feel, and so that's what makes it useful for me. This is going to fit into your world, however it does. And the last thing that I tabbed out, I think I moved it up to D. When I was warming up, I was kind of going between A and D, kind of like a 1/4 thing. But I was treating them both as a dominant seventh chords. And just to show you how to play that same sequence, or one way to at least, um, uh, down off of a lower root. Kind of a odd feeling of the fingers at first, maybe, but when you get that going, you get so many hammers and slides, and so it sounds really cool. Hopefully, the original Lick 19 dude would approve of how much I've been able to take away from that one note sequence, and really move it around and get a lot of you get this sort of rotation in the feel of it. That's just really cool. And going back and forth between those chords, I don't really have it that well prepared, but I got into something like and you can feel me kind of drift back into a minor pentatonic or something. But this is something that you can really kind of put in and play around with it and take it out and swap it back out for the blues scale and stuff. And it's really it has a distinctive sound and feeling. So yeah, check this out. It's just those 3 little bits of tab in there, and I hope this helps. Appreciate all the support. We'll see you next time.